Hi, Heather.
Hi, Krista.
How are you today?
I'm pretty good. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
feeling pretty
I could be
grounded.
a little bit better. Today's been a bit of a
Yeah,
day, but
yeah.
that's
You've
okay.
had you've had a couple of rough things happen lately.
Life, life happens.
Yeah,
It is what
yeah.
it is. Um, anyway, it's the sun is out. I will take that for my joy today.
And you've got good
Uh,
people around you. We had
I
a really
do.
we
I
had a really
do.
great call this morning with
We
our
did.
certification program, and that's always such a
Yeah,
good grounding when you end up in a good
very
conversation
much.
space with people
Very,
that are
very
doing
much.
really, really good work.
Honestly, I always feel so spoiled in all of our programs because the people that come through are just like
Yeah,
so amazing. Like
yeah.
inevitably, they're always just
They really
so
are. Yeah.
insightful, so delightful. So
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. It's great because it just feels like our goal has always been to expand the work of holding space, and every person that comes through, it feels like a little spore that just
Yeah.
gets bigger. Yeah. Speaking of communities, that's going to be my segue. Uh,
Okay. Let's go there.
Let's go there. Yeah, because we were talking a little bit about the idea of accountability. Um, and I mean, we just started our Become a Grounded Guide program. Had the first call last week, Thursday. There's still time to join if you still want to get on board. We would love to have you for either this module or future modules. So
Yeah.
feel welcome to sign up. But part of being a grounded guide is being able to be held accountable. Um, and not just that, but to build accountability structures into your leadership. Um, and I think we've seen a lot of evidence of folks who have not done that well
Mhm.
in pop culture and other spaces. Um, so yeah, so muse for me a little bit about what's been brewing in your brain about this idea of accountability and
Yeah.
community and leadership and how those all mingle.
Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts about this. I'm trying to think which direction I want to go. First of all, I think it's important to maybe name what we're talking about when we talk about accountability.
Mm,
Accountability is, I think, a form of correction that is about let's all contribute our best work here and our best capacity. And maybe there's something that I can name about what you're bringing to the table that's not quite going to contribute to the best for our collective. So it's a form of like course correction. But
yeah.
the thing is, I think that steeped in a patriarchal culture, we've come to associate accountability with punishment.
Mm,
And I think that's a really important part, that we need to separate accountability from punishment, because that's not what
agreed.
we're talking about. And I know because I feel it in my body when somebody holds me accountable, especially as a leader.
Yeah.
I feel this anxiety rise up in me that, oh my gosh, I'm going to be punished. And it will make me feel like I'm going to risk losing belonging and safety and all the core needs that's at risk of being lost when I'm being held accountable. So I think that there is really, I think we all have some trauma rooted in our bodies from the patriarchy that's telling us, that's equating it with no longer measuring up.
Right.
If you hold me accountable, then my value has dropped in the measurement of acceptability of the patriarchy.
Yeah.
And I want to pull that apart and pull that out of that measurement of accountability, a measurement of value, and say accountability is, we have all decided on the good of the collective, and what we and we're all bringing something meaningful that can create positive change. And maybe you're having a moment when, for whatever reason, and it might be your own social conditioning, it might be your trauma, it might be your tiredness, your body, you're feeling exhausted on a particular day. Maybe you've fumbled in a moment, and I come alongside you. And the thing is, and this is what you and I always say, is accountability has to live in love.
Yeah, 100%.
Like, we cannot do valuable accountability that is about correction without pairing it with love.
Yeah.
And that's what's missing in so much of what we understand as accountability. And I, like, you and I have a long, trusting, loving relationship. So I can come alongside you, and vice versa. You can come alongside me and say, there's this thing that happened, and maybe you need to do some repair, or maybe you need to change some of the language you use, or something like that. I know I'm not going to lose your love when you're holding
Yeah.
me accountable for that. When we take accountability out of love, that's when we fall into the trap of punishment, of shame, all of those things that end up diminishing us, but don't call us to our higher self. So
Yeah.
accountability is calling us to our higher selves, but we can't be our higher selves unless we are really, you know, in intertwined in our relationship with a loving relationship of kindness, of tenderness, of being held in those spaces. So, and one of the things, and part of the reason this came up, you and I were talking about how much performative accountability there is out there. The internet is
Yeah.
just
Full of it.
like
Full
full
of it.
of performative accountability where we're calling each other out, and especially among those of us who are social justice oriented, call us whatever you want, we pull each other down because we're not performing well enough. And I get this fairly regularly because I'm a relatively
Yeah.
public person online. People will say, why aren't you doing better in your allyship of this, or blah blah blah, or whatever. We're doing the public shaming or the public calling out, and it's not tied to love, and it's
Yeah.
not held in meaningful relationship and community spaces. And so then it just feels like punishment. You call me out on the internet
Yes.
and I'm going to immediately feel in my body a sense of being punished. And
Yeah.
so we've got to reroute it. And that's not to say you should never call anybody out online or anything. I'm not saying never any of these things, but if we don't first root it in a loving relationship, then it's just going to be sending someone into a spiral of shame.
Yeah. 100%. I was thinking as you were speaking that accountability is really just inviting someone back into our shared humanity, right? Like it's being like, hey,
Yeah.
you're not the main character here. Like this impacted someone, this hurt someone, this hurt me. Um, and it's an invitation back into that shared humanity.
Yeah.
And that flattens that hierarchy, right? Because now you're not over me. Now we
Right.
are equals again. Um, and I think that's really important. Um, and yeah, like you say, it does need to be rooted for transformation to happen, for the accountability to have actual impact. Yes, that relationship has to be there. And again, it's not that you should never feel that twinge of shame, because I think that's important too, because that's
Yeah.
like pain in your body, right? Something's wrong. and but that's an opportunity to get curious about it then, and not to react and get defensive, which
Yeah.
is, again, something you see over and over again in people, partly because, like you say, they are not assured that they are not going to lose something
Yeah.
through this perceived punishment, right? And yeah, so it's natural to feel defensive and to have that reaction, and also to have a space to go, okay, can I unpack this with you? Can we figure
Yeah.
out what I can do to repair? Can we, can I explain a little more where I was coming from and give you some context? Um, can you tell me more about how that hurt you?
Yeah.
Like it's an opportunity again for that shared humanity. It's a space to sort of open up into vulnerability, that I think can be really, really valuable
Yeah.
for leaders, for anybody, and not just in a performative way, not just to placate people or to make people feel better, to make yourself look better, but like you say, to like achieve that higher self
Yeah.
that we
Yeah.
all long to sort of move into.
Yeah, and part of the reason why we kind of suck at accountability in a lot of ways is that we have built so much hierarchy into our
Yeah,
cultures, into our
so
systems.
much.
And so, patriarchal systems, white supremacist, capitalist systems are all largely built in hierarchy, which is a patriarchal model.
Yeah.
And when you have a model of leadership that is top down, that puts there's ultimately someone at the top, it is much more difficult to build meaningful accountability into systems like that because you
Yeah.
always have power imbalances. And so to hold somebody accountable that is at a different level of power and status in the structure than you is incredibly difficult. And I've been in situations like that. I years ago when I worked in the government, there were a number of women of my colleagues that were had filed a complaint, a sexual abuse claim, or against a leader in our organization, and the
Yeah.
incredible effort it took to bring that person to accountability because they were high up in the power
Yeah.
structure. I'll never forget that moment. So I think that's part of the flaw in our system. There's many flaws in that kind of system, but part of it is that we have not created. And I'm remembering Malcolm Gladwell's book, one of his books. He talked about, and this was particularly in the airlines, how a lot of the crashes of airplanes were because the second mate or the second in command in the cockpit didn't feel
Hmm.
comfortable calling out the captain of the plane, the
Yeah.
pilot.
Right.
And so the pilot was making mistakes, and the second in command was not comfortable
Saying
enough to
nothing.
call out the mistake.
Yeah.
And so it said, planes were crashing because of that lack of accountability in a power imbalance. And
Yeah.
so we have to rearrange our structures so that the people up there have peers that can hold them accountable, so
Yeah.
that there is a structure of both support and accountability in whatever structures we create. And you and I have worked to create that in our business partnership. It's we've talked about that quite a bit, like why we're business partners and why it's not you're no longer my assistant, but we're peers, because I need that. Like, I need the support. I need emotional support because sometimes I'm a really flawed human being who's going through some shit, and I don't want people holding me up on a pedestal. I need somebody who's
Yeah.
peer to and yeah, we've worked to build that with our team and stuff too. And so, yeah, I think we have to get to the core of how our systems are built so
Yeah.
that we can get better at accountability. And I think of that, and there's a lot of it being named right now in the wake of the Epstein files,
Hmm.
with people like Deepak Chopra, some of the spiritual leaders.
Yeah.
A lot of people turn to these high ranking kind of spiritual leaders, and there's a number of them being named and being called out for it. And I think one of my questions is, where were the system's accountability and support for that person before we
Yeah.
elevated them into the position where they were influencing so many spiritual seekers, and
Yeah.
often fairly, like, people that were in pain, seeking some
Yeah.
release from that pain, and they turn to these gurus and teachers, and it's like there's nothing in the structure or our assumptions around that person that makes sure that we're supporting them in their leadership, but also holding them accountable for what they do
Yeah.
and say.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, I even said before we started recording that I'm not even sure if it's possible to truly hold people accountable currently in like well in a hierarchical system. Like it
Yeah,
just like you say, there's too many power imbalances. There's not an and yeah, there's not enough. The risk of being vulnerable and being held accountable when you are at the top there is too great. It's too
yeah,
great.
yeah,
And so they don't even think to build in that accountability into their systems, right?
yeah,
And that is one of the things that you and I have deliberately tried to do. Like, how do we build in accountability to each other, to our team, so that it's there and it's in the open.
yeah,
And yeah, like we don't have to agree about everything. And sometimes we do get called out for stuff and we sit with it and we go, okay, is this a valid concern? Do we need to
yeah,
address this? What what do we need to repair? Like, yeah, so we need to start when as we build new systems, we need to think about how are we building that accountability in right from ground zero, because
yeah.
it's the only way, because in these hierarchical systems, yeah, that opportunity is gone almost from the minute that you enter any kind of hierarchy, right?
Yeah. 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 And I think if I look back at my years of leadership and long before I was teaching about leadership, I was in leadership for a lot of years in first in government and then nonprofit. And
Yeah,
one of the things that sort of surprised me is that the higher you get up in leadership, the more you actually develop kind of a fragile ego. It's like because you hold so much more responsibility,
yeah,
more people are deflecting, projecting,
yeah,
expecting things of you,
sure.
more you have the weight of the organization on your shoulders. It actually, if you're not being well held and supported, if you don't have a network of people that love you and care for you, the
Yeah,
more you guard yourself against criticism, the more
yeah,
you protect yourself. And you see this in government leadership, but we see this
all the
so
time.
displayed out there right now. It's like you make yourself look really strong so that you can hold that position. And that's all, almost all false bravado.
Yeah,
Because what's actually going on in a lot of cases, and I've seen this again and again in myself and people that were peers in leadership, it's
yeah,
like you're actually building like castles in the sand, or you're building
yeah,
structures to support your fragile ego to make sure that you don't have to be held accountable. Because if you're actually called out for something, it creates more pain when you're up there and everybody's looking to you than when you're down here. And so that's why
yeah,
you have to your I don't know, your masks are bigger, your protection
yeah,
is stronger. Yeah, I don't know if
yeah,
I'm communicating this well, but it feels like that becomes greater risk the more you move up.
yeah.
And that's part of the problem with that kind of leadership
Hmm.
model, is that that's not actually the right people to be leading. We
No,
need, and that's why we're teaching about grounded guidance, because we
yeah,
actually need people who are grounded in in an authentic view of themselves, within authentic relationships, in authentic community, in meaningful accountability, meaningful relationships. And that is where the wisdom lives.
yes, 100%. Because we don't need more people propping up their pedestals with toothpicks. Because that was the image
Exactly.
that came to me as you were talking, that you're
Yeah.
just like propping up your pedestal with
Yeah.
toothpicks.
And you got to protect it. The
Yeah,
higher you up, the more you have to protect that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And again, like I know it's sometimes when we speak, we sound a little galaxy brained, but there are models for this. And
Yeah.
like historically, there are models for this. This is not new per se. We're just trying to help give it a little more oomph.
Yeah.
a, yeah, some language to help birth it again, rebirth it into a world that desperately needs this.
Exactly. I mean, and a lot of what we've built, even when it comes to the grounded guide, like, I mean, I go to nature, and I'm in the process of
Yep.
writing a post about killer whale societies, for example, or we
Hmm.
learn it from indigenous cultures, ancient cultures, a lot of them having been matriarchal or having different systems in place that are not the kind of hierarchical patriarchal
Yeah,
system. So yeah, we've got it. We in our histories, in our like, and there are people doing this all over the world that are
all over the world.
imagining different kinds of systems. So yeah, we're not creating something that's brand new. We're just drawing
No.
on that wisdom to help us uncover something that may
Yep.
actually transform the systems we currently have.
Yeah. And just to brag on you a little bit, you have a really unique way of sort of coalescing all of that information into a way that I think makes sense for a lot of people and just like computes. Um, yeah, and I think that it's a brilliant gift to be able to offer that to the world. So yeah,
Thank you.
I'm gonna brag on it because you know what? We don't do enough of that.
We
We're
don't.
two Manitoba girls who are just
Yeah.
like, we're
Yeah.
we're okay, we guess.
Yeah, we're doing all right.
We're okay. We're kind of smart
Yeah.
sometimes. We have some good things to think. Anyway, I think we've talked people's ear off enough,
I
and we
think
could go
so.
on for hours. But yeah, come and join us. Become a grounded guide if you haven't already. If you have, next call's on Thursday. Super
Yeah, there's
excited. We
still
got
time.
a
We keep the door open
mhm.
for people to trickle in
Yeah,
late because there's almost always some people that want to
yeah,
come after the first call has happened. So
absolutely. And yeah, we have an amazing international group of people from literally
really,
everywhere.
really interesting group. Yeah.
Egypt and Australia and Europe and North America and South
Yeah.
America. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
it's a really, really great cohort of people. Again, and then I circle back to we attract some really amazing people. So
Yeah, exactly.
you should come and meet them.
Come be one of them. There's still space for
Yeah,
you to sit in our circle.
exactly. Exactly. All right, till next time, enjoy your coffee break.